All right.
Okay, it is August 12th. School starts this week. Summer vacation is out. Football season is on. And, for all those teams that are wishing out there, how come we're not Indiana, the Hoosiers and football? Anything could happen. Anything could happen. So, but we have a great guest today. But before we get going, let's have our own John Sibley Butler play some music.
I've been outside, in and around, about and back again. I've been so many places, I can't remember where or when. And the clock on the wall was my only boss and my only friend. Never really was a friend of mine. I've traded love for pennies, sold my soul for less. I lost my ideas in that long tunnel of time. Then I'll turn inside out and around, about and back again. Find myself right where I started again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, lots going on. I can't believe it's August already, and it's almost like Christmas time. The year is going too fast. There are too many things going on. Incredible. It's really incredible. What a year, and so much going on. And I've been to Atlanta 2 or 3 times, and there's more to come. And digital twin consortiums and Distributech and all the new innovation that is happening with AI. And so just excited about the fall season, which is usually a season that really a lot of the projects and the spending happens. And so I'm looking forward to that. And there's a bunch of projects in front of us. So I'm excited. Johnny, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm like you, I'm working hard, but a strange thing has happened with all the discussions, if you will, of job opportunities in AI, and among us eggheads, that is, the professors who do all the research that nobody hears about. There's another discussion about our type of society, democratic socialism. Are we going down? The American empire going down, and we are now just one of many. People not looking to America as the model anymore, and we've discussed here about our research going overseas. The Academy of Management, which I belong to, for management professors, have decided to not have their big meeting they've had here for the last 100 years. They're going to move it to a European country, and then they're
Hmm.
going to move it to Canada the next year. And the universities around the globe are recruiting crazy the scientists from American universities. So there's there's just something going on about Marxism, capitalism, China's combining both. And so I've had some discussions with my fellow egghead professors who we like to write mathematical models of what's going on. But of course, in the midst of that, boy, how exciting it is to have all of the enterprises, even with the war going on. Now, I am a decorated Vietnam veteran, and there was a sense then that, hey, the war belongs to somebody else, not Americans, but this is Americans' war. If it's Trump's war, it's Americans' war. So I think that I'm kind of thrown back to that era as a very young man. It's like the conflict is not going on in the Middle East, and we're going to put all our emphasis here. But philosophically, what that means is that we're running on the stock market, and there are no products involved. If you're in the stock market, then your portfolio might be doing good. But Andres is not a product. I mean, finance is not a product. It's not something that you put your hands on. But let me talk about some of the companies that's going on. I'm working with lots of companies, and as you know, I'm working with America to build our first refinery. And we think we got the deal done here at my house on Sunday. And then working with lots and lots of companies that's applying AI. So it's not that AI it's taking jobs. It is taking jobs, but you got to have somebody to babysit it. And if you don't know where to look to use AI, it's just data in and garbage in and garbage out. Here in Texas, we're still creating 4 times the amount of jobs, but this is what has happened. There is a revolution against data centers. And the governor of the great state of Texas says you cannot pass the cost of data centers to the taxpayers anymore. You got to have your own everything. So you got to build a center. So the biggest thing and the biggest question is, in the data centers, they will provide jobs, especially when you're building them and maintaining them. There's a dialectic going on between economic development and the things that we need in the future. And I won't comment on the war, but I think it's having a detrimental effect on lots of things, but perhaps on the idea of America as a benevolent society that will help people out, and maybe in the future people will turn to other countries rather than us.
Excellent. Llewellyn, what do you say?
Well, as happened several times recently, I find myself in the embarrassing situation of having to totally agree with John Sibley Butler. This is a change in the global arrangement. There's a new world order, and this may be a hint of it. John is right, but things are not quite as rosy as they look. We've got an imbalance. It's getting worse all the time. 1% of the people now own much more of the wealth than they ever did. It's a much larger percentage. I also see what to me is a distressing investment in AI by the large financial institutions. Today, I learned that Bank of America alone is going to put in $250 billion. A couple of days ago, it was a group of financial institutions putting in $500 billion. Well, when the banks are giving money to that kind of investment, it means an awful lot of other investments are not being made. Money is finite, and there's a lot of investments that aren't being made. And it's a time when we need to invest not in the obvious, but in the less obvious. We get too preoccupied with one thing. We get kind of one factor. Is the world is about AI. No, the world is about a lot of things, and AI can help a lot of things, but it may not be the determining technology. I've been doing more work on it, more reporting, and I found some very interesting tendencies. One is that in applied AI, using AI in business, we're not even in the top 20. In technology, AI technology, we are global leaders, but we're not using it. I would send, if I were head of a large corporation, I would say, let's go and see what it is that Singapore, that Japan, that China, what are these countries doing? That they are deploying AI. They're not waiting for more AI to be invented, discovered, perfected. They are deploying it, which is going to affect their productivity beneficially. And if their productivity goes up beneficially and their goods become cheaper, this is not helpful to us. So we need not just to sit around crowing about our preeminence in looking at AI as a cutting edge, but also in its deployment. And if we don't do that, very soon we will be in the odd situation which we've been in before, where we invented it and somebody else benefited from it. Mm-hmm. The thing about AI is that once it's out there, many countries can use it. We don't have to have it in the backyard, so to speak. And there's a tendency to think that because we have these great AI companies, 7 of them, basically, that we control AI. We don't. The people who control AI are the people who make the most use of it, who use it to increase their productivity, their working conditions, their inventions. You can invent all kinds of things without inventing any more AI. You can find new medicines. But we run into our imbalance factor. We have the best medical science on earth and one of the poorest delivery systems, which has just gotten worse because of the changes the government have made to public medicine.
Mhm.
We need to redress these imbalances, and the first thing we need to do is to stop thinking that we're so awfully superior. We are, I suppose, or have been, or we won't be very much longer. We need to get down, buckle down, and apply ourselves as smaller countries tend to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh,
Well,
and
well said. Well said.
yeah,
So let me also just share more detail about what Luella was talking about. So Nvidia on Monday announced a new partnership with Apollo Global Management, BlackRock, Blackstone, Brookfield Asset Management, Goldman Sachs, and KKR, where they are basically turning uh, AI chips into a new asset class that is can be investable. What that means is that, retirement funds and all these institutional investors are going to be basically doing the financing of the AI build out. That's what that means. It's sort of like, the maybe this creates a new asset class that rivals in many ways the derivatives and all the issues that come up with the financing of mortgages in 2008. But I think that this time may be different in the sense that it's not mortgages backed by people that cannot pay the bills, but differently. But anyway, that's what's going on there. And $500 billion is quite a bit of funding just to get things started. So who knows? But the thing about AI that I love the most, gentlemen, is that, and this is why I'm excited to hear what our special guest is going to share with us, is that, I was in Atlanta and I'm in Austin a lot, and I get on these Waymo cars, which are being managed by AI, and they're fascinating. And it's the beginning of the new sort of a paradigm shift towards the Jetsons universe, and then you got the vertical takeoff and landing vehicles that need AI, and it's all these data centers and all this infrastructure is going to be utilized somehow, and it's going to be creating a new paradigm shift. So the impact on transportation is going to be gigantic. So we're excited to have Heather Bishop, Associate Project Manager of Transportation and Public Works at the City of Austin. I'm retired from there, having been the CIO at Austin Energy for several years. And the City of Austin Transportation and Public Works is a highly reliable organization that builds and maintains mobility infrastructure for our community. And their vision is to really have Austin be recognized as a model for safe, reliable, and sustainable transportation. And it's a phenomenal team of folks. So, Heather, how are you? Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. And I will point out how hilarious I find it that my Zoom is not working properly today. And here we are talking about, technology and all these advanced things. And yeah, and Zoom is telling me no today, which I do personally find hilarious. And thank you so
Exactly.
much for inviting me to the program.
Heather,
I'm
No,
delighted to be
absolutely,
nobody
here.
absolutely.
uses no sensible person tries to use technology without the attendance of a 12-year-old child.
No, no
Thank
worries,
you.
Heather. No worries. We see your picture. You come very clear on the sound. So
Thank
let's get
you.
started. Let's get started and basically tell us a little bit about you and your background. I don't know if you're an Aggie or a Longhorn or a Bobcat or what are you? And then tell us about what you do and what is this thing called the Smart Mobility Office?
Sure. So I have grown up here most of my life. I actually went to Southwestern University up in Georgetown, and sort of
Beautiful,
immediately,
beautiful school.
isn't it though? Is it?
Expensive school.
Well, well, there's that. I did have some scholarships, but I also did have to pay for a while after that. And before that, I did study at the University of Texas with a professor emeritus like yourself. And really with biology and neuropsychology. I had a
Mhm.
grant from the National Science Foundation and was there for quite some time.
Mm.
And this is my third round with the City of Austin. I started there in the aviation department quite a while ago, and then came back and worked in business development, economic development, and I'm now currently in strategic projects with a stint with the Smart Mobility Office, which was absolutely delightful. I was working with a tech nonprofit and really learning quite a lot, helping in a variety of ways, doing trainings and all sorts of things on a variety of technological topics, smart city topics, things of that nature. And the city lured me away. The Smart Mobility Office was started in 2018 with a focus on emerging mobility, public-private partnerships, placemaking, and experiential learning. And with that having been a part of my background, they're like, come on. My work background is in transportation engineering, project management, environmental project management, aviation operations, STEM education, and of course, nonprofit leadership.
Mhm.
At the Smart Mobility Office, my work involved being a co-principal investigator on a National Science Foundation Civic Innovation Challenge grant, leading public and private stakeholder engagement, conducting peer city analysis and interviews across both departments and cities and even internationally, supporting feasibility studies, research, leading internal tech implementation, and acting as a liaison for national and international smart city delegations.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
So tell us real quick, what are the top projects? Because we know we have all these things with traffic and growth in Austin, and that seems to be one of the largest challenges. So what are you guys working on?
So, that's it really depends on what department, but I can tell you that right now, there were changes with the Smart Mobility Office, and I am currently in strategic projects.
Hmm.
And my current projects include, hold on a second, because there's a lot. One of the big projects for the strategic projects team relates to green infrastructure, which is a council-directed initiative to really move green infrastructure in kind of throughout the city and transportation. Vision Zero is huge. And that's really a move to reduce the number of injuries and deaths, on our streets. And that's going to involve everything from behavioral change to technology and innovation to policy changes. That's a huge, a quite broad element. Um, there's so much construction related to all of these big projects that are coming online over these next 10 years. So coordination among departments, coordination among regional organizations, things like that, that also requires policy, communication, technology. How does organization A communicate with organization B and get that information to the public? How does the public know at any one time what project is happening, what corridor is open, what corridor is not open. So there are a number of initiatives that are coming forward in the next sometimes months, even years, telling folks or helping folks to
Hmm.
understand where to go, when, and how. Um, how do we do things? How do we plan things in a way that uses things like AI to help us in planning maintenance?
Right.
Are there pilot projects? And that's something that is really my baby that started from Smart Mobility Office to now.
So before I turn you loose with this, guys, help us understand something. Transportation is kind of complicated in the US in the sense that some of the roads are owned by the Department of Transportation, some of the
Sure.
roads are owned by the county, and some of the roads are owned by the city. Walk
Yes.
me, walk me real quick about how do you go about collaborating with these folks, and how does that work? How
Sure.
it happens?
There's a lot of working groups. And and that is actually part of my responsibility, although not for every department. Um, you cannot plan a corridor without having everyone work together. You have to have Cap Metro working with carts, working with your Vision Zero people, working with you have to have everyone working together, because if you work in silos, you're not going to get it done. You're not going to get it done efficiently, effectively. Add to that, you also have to have another component. You have to have stakeholders involved. You can't just get the organizations talking. You also have to have neighborhoods involved. You have to have other technical advisors involved. You need consultants involved. You really cannot just have any one department or any one organization planning.
Mhm.
Specifically for the reasons you mentioned, you
Yeah.
have multiple areas, multiple streets owned by and managed and navigated by different people. But then you have intersecting corridors, intersecting
Mhm.
intersections, and what you might call sometimes conflicting interests. What
Sure.
neighborhood A wants might be different from neighborhood B wants, might be
Mhm.
different from stakeholder C. So if you don't bring all of these people together thoughtfully and intentionally, you're not going to have long-term success. You're not going to have long-term usage in a way that's helpful, which also brings in technology and innovation. One of the elements of the pilot program is how do we get um, businesses, organizations, and et cetera to come to us to bring us thoughtful ideas that address municipal problems. We are not going to do it all ourselves. We're not just going to be able to think of everything. We
Mhm.
want to be efficient and effective and innovative, and we're not biased. It can be two guys in their garage, or it can be Google. But if you come to us and you say, hey, TPW, hey, City of Austin, we notice that A, B, or C happens to be an issue or a problem. We've got a great idea. We've got a great technology. We'd like to try it. Bring it on. Let us go
Mhm.
through it. Let's talk through it. And really the key that what we're looking for is people who have great ideas that we can implement
Sure.
holistically to benefit
Sure.
all.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Johnny?
I think good seeing you again. I'm sure we met. I'm on the Austin Historical Committee with Martha Hartzek, and we choose the Catherine Hart Award every year for the best historical preservation in Austin. And I'm
I do
also
volunteer, so
and I
we
was
probably have
also
met.
I was also
That's
involved in the music scene. Were you in the music scene at one time?
I am and have been, and yes.
Yeah, and I
Yes,
played
I
at the
am.
Green Eye Cat doing South by Southwest, and Lou Allen would tell you I'm the best musician in Austin, but that's
Well,
another.
there you go. All
But I was a
right.
professor over here. I'll give Willie Nelson some props, but otherwise.
That's very kind and generous of you.
So let me just ask you this: when you look at a city in the city of Austin, and as you look at how we developed Austin,
Mhm.
we did say that what you're working on are great components of economic development. The beauty of the city, the progress of the city in the arts, the food, and et cetera, et cetera. So when you talk about mobility, tell me what do you mean by mobility? Is it?
Sure.
I mean, is it?
All the
I mean, what
things.
is it? It's everything now. You know, we've had
It is.
scooters where everybody stumbled over and killed themselves. We have scooters. I can't go down the street now without a bicycle lane, and people the cars are backed up and there's nobody on the bicycle lane.
Well, then we need
Texans,
you on a
Texans
working
like their
group.
cars, and we won't be our cars and our horses. We don't want all this stuff going on. So tell me what you mean by when you guys sit around. What do you talk about mobility? What is it? Is it
Mobility is all the things. You have foot traffic and pedestrians, you have people in wheelchairs, you have cars, you have cyclists, you have motorcyclists, you have scooters and all the different variations that there may be. It's all the things. And you bring up a really good point. And this is actually one of the reasons we have working groups and advisory groups and commissions and that sort of thing is you really need everyone's input I am realistic enough to know that you're not going to satisfy everyone. You're not going to solve everyone's individual problems, but you can try and you can get the input and perspective of enough people. And you're going to gather a lot of information, and then you can think strategically on how we can address as much of these issues and concerns as possible. I'll give you a great example about scooters. You can do things such as geofence so that they're not in certain areas. You can work with the providers and ask them, hey, can you make sure that y'all are picking up, the scooters in certain time frames and that sort of thing. A lot of providers are actually quite cooperative. Whether some providers for different forms of transportation we cannot regulate, but we can work with them to make it a hospitable environment and vice versa, and be good partners. Ask them to be good partners and vice versa. Um,
Well,
we
let
need
me ask,
people to let us know what their pain points are, both businesses and residents, so that we can help come up with ideas. And also, we are open to ideas being suggested to us. Again, realistic enough to know we're not going to come up with everything, but we can try. And again, having programs such as a pilot program where people can suggest new technologies or concepts is also another way to open the door to innovation.
well, if you were to high 512 CMG for consulting, I would start with this. In the 1800s, we had horses, we had buggies, we had bicycles, we had scooters, and we had streetcars, and we had no red lights. We had no red lights. We had no traffic, no traffic management. And the question becomes, how did they solve the solution? And then when cars came along, it really crowded everything. If you go back and look at the case studies, if you will, on mobility, if you look at New York City, if you look at Boston, if you look at Chicago, all of
Which we
these
do.
all of these elements were going along at the same time. So it's not a new kind of problem that we have. The
Correct.
biggest problem was when we had streetcars, horses, bicycles, you know, and scooters, and then cars came along. So how do you guys sit down and strategize on that? Do you use the historical data? And it looks like to me, when I say that is, we're going back to where Austin was in 1880. So, for example, we have a brand new rail that's going in Austin. If you dig up the streets, you will find that the rails ran in the same place, right? So we're going kind of back to the future, with the exception of Speedway. It used to run straight down Speedway, right, going out to Hyde Park. Now it's over on Guadalupe. Do you look at the historical stuff and say, you kind of, as the song said, we're back right back where we started again on this mobility stuff?
I can appreciate what you're saying, and I can tell you that over the years, and this is very much my personal opinion, so speaking definitely as an individual, over the years, I have heard many, many smart, capable, intelligent folks in the community say that the city does no transportation planning. And I have to tell you that, I happen to work in the planning department. Many people have worked in the planning department. If you go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, you'll find all kinds of transportation planning, both, city, regionally, what have you. There's a ton of transportation plans. And a lot of the frustration and why people say that is because things, exactly the things that you're saying, is because they're like, wait a second, um, surely we would have done this already. Surely, what are we doing now? Surely this would have already happened. And what I will tell you is plans have been made. People have known things. They have made recommendations, and sometimes they've risen to the level of public awareness, and the public has said no, we don't want to do that because it's too expensive, too disruptive. We'll do that later. Sometimes it's just not risen to public awareness because we didn't have the political interest at the time. There's a lot of reasons why we haven't done certain things over time, but it has not been because planners weren't aware of the issue, or that planners weren't looking back historically or forwardly, or looking at peer cities or that sort of thing.
I
Um,
absolutely
I would,
agree because you
yeah.
look at,
So, and I'm
yeah,
not blaming any one individual or person or group of people or what have you. I would say that, to your point, yes, there have been looks back, there have been looks forward, there have been looks around for a very long time, and many things have not been implemented for many, many reasons. And people are understandably frustrated. And all we can do is say, acknowledge that and try and see what we can do moving forward.
And let me just add this before I leave. I think that what really set us back is underneath us, there are caverns, and there's so many lakes and hills
Sure.
around Austin. It just doesn't make any sense to plan a city because we're a city of lakes and hills and lakes, caverns underneath, and etc. But and also, I'll say it again, we love our cars. We love our
Yeah.
horses. But now the cars are gone because I just can't go down. It'll take me $60 to park my car now when I go downtown.
I'm going to make a quick plug for movability. I would, and in full disclosure, I am on their board, but I would reach out to them, and they do a great job with helping people with transportation planning and alternate ways to get around that are, yeah, I highly recommend their staff. They're good folks.
512 CMG has the answers, and if they contact me, we have a contract, and we have this stuff done in 2 months.
Okay. Julie.
Okay.
Llewellyn.
Helga, the large cities of the world at the end of the 19th century realized you couldn't just move people on the surface. You had to move underground. So London, New York, and later Boston and other cities put in subways. They also had fairly extensive, some of them still do, surface train transportation. Boston has an enormous network of trains and a subway and traffic jams. You always have traffic jam. But those same cities, London and New York, for example, are both looking, well, London has already implemented it, at basically trying to get most of the cars out of the cities, essentially forcing people onto either public transportation or using a lighter vehicle like a scooter or a bicycle.
Mobility hubs.
But the one thing that we haven't talked about, but I was talking to an AI expert yesterday, or actually the day before, and he talked about an air traffic control system with many flying taxis, flying buses, all sorts of things in the air. I wonder to what extent, and I want to say that although I think there's a lack of public transportation in Texas, I'm hugely impressed by the highways. I was just north of Dallas 2 weeks ago, and I was struck by the wonderful way these spaghetti-like roads twist around. They're works of art. But of course, there's a limit to the number of cars, and we've also found an interesting dynamic, and that is if you build more roads, you get more traffic jams. They built a beltway around London. It's called the M25, I think. I happened to be in London when it opened. It opened to a traffic jam. It was supposed to relieve all kinds of congestion. People who hadn't thought of taking their cars out of the garage took them out of the garage. And Johnny's right. Again, I have to wonder what's happening to me. But Johnny's right. People love their cars. In your car, you've got your stuff. It's not the word I'd use conversationally. I'm not about stuff. But we need, obviously, an intellectual leap forward. In the 19th century, the old cities leapt forward by going underground. Now they've leapt forward by reducing the number of cars on the streets, or New York's been somewhat frustrated by Trump, but endeavoring, because it seems self-evident, that if you can get the speed of traffic from 4 miles an hour up to 12 miles an hour, you've actually made a lot of sense. I wonder what sort of intellectual thinking is going on in Austin. What will take you from the present congestion and the congested thinking to the next stage, to the highway, for example.
I appreciate that. And behavioral change is, in fact, one of the many many elements that is part of the goals. And we have an entire department, our TDM, which is Transportation Demand Management. We have a very robust team there with a number of concepts that are really aimed at that. We also have, there's the CPRG grant, which is, oh goodness, which is really, about climate change and reducing air pollution. And an element of that, of course, is changes to transportation, really thinking through thoughtfully what are the different elements we can do to encourage people to use transportation other than single people in a car. Ways to encourage commuting, ways to reduce barriers to trying all of these other methods. So there is an entire team devoted to that. Everything from, incentives to changes to infrastructure, things of that nature. And I'm delighted that you brought up the whole air taxi thing, because that isn't actually an element of my job. It was announced, I think, sometime last year that is something that the city manager's office is really interested in, knowing that on a federal level, there has been increased interest over the last, 2 years or so in this. And there have been changes in regulations, there have been changes in technology, all of this. And so what does the city of Austin need to do with this? You'll find like LA is looking into air taxis related to the Olympics. New York is looking into air taxis along a corridor in Manhattan. So part of my responsibility is looking into what are all these other cities doing, what's happening overseas, what's happening throughout the US, what are the regulations, who's involved, what are the various pilots, because there's some federal pilots, some even in Texas. Looking at everything from the infrastructure, the technology, what does that mean? Public opinion. There's a group out of North Texas that brings together, really everyone brings together, policymakers, brings together technologists, brings together all sorts of folks. And there's a monthly group where we all listen and talk and learn. And I'm really trying to make sure that our director's office has all of this information. It will probably not be the sole responsibility, or possibly not even the responsibility of the transportation department. That may land with the aviation department in conjunction with other people. So it will be a cross, when and how that comes all together here in Austin will be really come, I believe, out of the city manager's office, and we'll see who does what. But a large part of what I do in relation to that is keeping track of everything, again, nationally, internationally, and making sure that we're not left unaware. It's fascinating stuff, and I don't mind disclosing that I did work in the aviation department at one time, and did work in an aviation consulting firm quite a long time ago. So it's something that I'm personally fascinated with, and it's one more way to keep us aware of the innovations and moving forward thoughtfully.
So Heather, real quick, we're gonna have light rail, right?
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, yes.
That's still not defined. It's not defined 100%.
So I would say this, I am not part of that team and I'm not working on that, but yes, do we have ATP is separate from the city of Austin formally, but do we have folks within the city transportation department who work with the ATP group? Yes. I just don't happen to work on that specifically, so I don't want to say something inappropriate because I don't happen to be focused on that. But do we know that is moving forward and that we have different people working and collaborating on that? Yes. I just can't give you a status on it because I want to make sure that I'm accurate with anything that I share.
And then another quick question.
My line of questioning, if I could, please.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
I was wondering, what is the impact of electrification on transportation? All of these new automated vehicles, these AI-controlled vehicles, tend to be electric. They also need to be able to loiter. They need to be able to park when they're not in motion. all of which suggests that they need a special infrastructure of their own. And I wonder how you're looking at that and what your conclusions might be.
Sure. I will tell you that they are not required to work with Austin Energy, but a lot of them do. A lot of them, reach out and work directly with Austin Energy, which is their own organization. I know that some of them are not necessarily as friendly as others and will park their vehicles and just park all day. I do know that we have an entire group. The city of Austin cannot regulate AVs. That's a state law. We're not allowed to do that, but we can. We do have dashboards that report incidents. We do have working groups and advisory groups and that sort of thing. And we do regularly talk with them. And we do have a person who's really assigned to that. And what we try to do is have everyone work together in a way that fosters safety and success and cooperation, because these AV groups want to be successful and we want them to be safe. So to the question specifically about the electrification, they work with, to the best of our understanding, Austin Energy to navigate some of that. Some of them do have separate plans and just kind of make their own arrangements. We're not really allowed to regulate that or tell them what they can or cannot do.
Thank you. I have one more question, and that
Sure.
is, do you have any data on the rate of penetration you expect of automated taxis, etc., into the fleet? Are you going to see a 50% rise in automated taxis in 2 years or in 10 years?
That is a great question. I suspect that the person who navigates all of our AV elements probably has a general idea of that. I don't, because that's not the area that I'm working with currently. When I was working with SMO, I did work on that. But yes, my guess is we do have a general idea. That being said, the caveat is there is some definite ebb and flow. And so I think that you might have one company who seems to be doing fairly well, and then they're not. And we've definitely seen that since the inception of the AVs in the community. So I think that any guesstimates that we might have would be subject to sort of industry rises and falls. Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Johnny?
Yes, one thing that's happening is the center of business is really moving outside of downtown Austin.
Oh, yes.
So the domain is a separate city, and they're building the new MD Anderson 3 blocks from my house, maybe 4 blocks from my house. And for example, I have a downtown club, and people would say, we would rather come to your golf club because we can't park downtown. So I have seen among business people really a scattering away from the center of downtown Austin, and the downtown Austin becoming condos for the very, very wealthy, for good times, much like the French Quarter, the city of my birth, in New Orleans. So how do you see? And I'm not going to talk about the fact that they're building another domain out by the airport. I'm not going to talk about what's going on out 71 West. How do you guys synchronize, if you will? Let's just take the domain, which is really just another city and indeed another downtown. How do you do that?
I appreciate that. And I would say that I'm going to answer that from a personal perspective for sure. As
Okay.
someone who grew up here and grew up going downtown on a regular basis, and remembering when it was quite easy to park, and you found your free spots very easily. You could go downtown, park, be there for 2 hours and spend your little, your $10 was to, go see a band or whatever, and then leave. And that was it. I do recall when it was extremely easy to navigate downtown and, get in, get out, spend your $10 and that's it. For certainly long-term Austinites who recall that it is quite a challenge. And what I can say is that obviously I can't speak for the parking folks or all of their planning, but I can say that they're aware of the challenges and that there are parking districts. There are various parking programs. I can't speak to all of them, but I know a number of them are listed on the website. They are aware of the challenges and are always looking to come up with different options that are not just, spend $70, for the 2 hours that you're downtown.
Yeah,
I can say personally that I'm appreciative of the fact that the parking team is aware of the challenges and are coming up with ideas that are not just for downtown, but are sort of throughout Austin as a region. Does that mean that every idea is going to be feasible for me personally? No, but it means that they are at least, they live here too. And that's actually an important point that I do want to make because I think some people forget. When people are frustrated by parking challenges or congestion challenges or what have you, they sometimes forget that the people who are working on these solutions are also living and going through those exact same things in real time and also have a vested interest in those solutions because their families and themselves are going through the same thing. And so sometimes people forget that we are real people navigating the exact same thing and we too want that solution and we want it to work and we want it to work for as many people as possible. So I think that's always an important perspective to keep in mind.
I agree with that, because Austin is different. When I go to Dallas, I have to put on a suit and rent a Rolls Royce just to be accepted. When I go to Houston, is a whole different thing. And Austin is blue jeans and tuxedo coats, right? But I do see this. This is what I see, and for people who study this, like the University of Chicago, is that what is happening in Austin, we're becoming like a Manhattan down. It is very expensive to live in this city, especially downtown there, where the condos are running 1.5 million and 2.5 million and 3 million. But I do see an age structure. What I see is a lot of people quote cannot afford downtown going to the Domain. The entertainment to the Domain might be just as dynamic as the entertainment, well, not as dynamic in downtown Austin. And I think, as Llewellyn would say, the key to all of this is transportation. And what has happened in Manhattan, if you go to a show in Manhattan, just using that as a case, I mean, it's very, very expensive. Not to mention, a football game at the University of Texas. So my question is this: do you guys ever get with the economic development people or the people who look at the cost of things,
Yes.
planning the idea of transportation? So, for example, when we had the professional golf team here, everybody was bused, right, to Austin Country Club off 360. Nobody drove there; it was too crowded, right? And we might get to the point where now we bus people to the University of Texas football games. They park 10 miles away and you bus them. Do you guys ever get with those people to consider the dynamics of transportation and supporting economically downtown?
Yes, I will say that breaking down silos is a key part of we have a lot of working groups and we have a lot
Mm-hmm.
of advisory groups. And
Okay.
so bringing together folks from economic development, folks from the arts department, from Acme, folks from transportation, folks from the airport, again, bringing together folks from all different departments so that you're really looking at issues and concerns, not just transportation, but other perspectives from a holistic perspective, because no one department is typically going to be able to solve some of these really complex perspectives.
Okay.
I know I had someone reach out to me recently you have folks who are looking at issues on aging. Well, when it comes to issues on aging and the quality of life of our elderly citizens, our older citizens, one element of that is transportation. Not the only, it's just one. And so someone reached out to me recently to participate with a working group related to that. There's a lot of cross-departmental, cross-division work to really bring all of us together to think about these things. So the answer is yes. Does that mean we're always going to get it right? No,
Right.
but we have to do the best we can, and we have to involve as many people as we can to think about it thoroughly.
And remember, our greatest musicians now are over 70, and our greatest one is over 90.
There we go. That's true.
That's right. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
So,
Sure.
so Heather, what's in front of you? What's coming up the next 6 months? What are you focused on?
Sure. I have several pilot projects that are really applied AI, actually. Going back to Llewellyn's comment earlier, how do we take issues of privacy and rights and things of that nature, and bring in the technology and use it thoughtfully to address issues that we need and help our planners plan better, think in terms of, maintenance and efficiency and really address a number of these things, but really not tech for tech's sake, not
Mhm.
but really thoughtfully. I love the, UT Good Systems and some of these other folks really think about the application of technology for a community benefit. So really looking at some of these pilot projects that have been, proposed, and thinking of them thoughtfully. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with the eVTOLs, the air taxis. Again, I'm not in charge of that, but just really thinking through that. The Green Infrastructure Working Working Project, we're coming up with new, tree species lists and, changes to the Transportation Criteria Manual. That's really interesting to me. But yeah, I'm definitely curious to see how some of these pilot projects and the application of AI in a human-centered community benefit way is going to come out. And I'm really curious to see what gets proposed, frankly, that's going to address these municipal issues. Again, not just product pitches, but actually address these community issues and these municipal issues.
Sure,
I'd love
sure.
to see more.
Well, thank you for being with us. I'm looking at the time, and maybe we can ask the guys for some final thoughts.
Well,
Johnny?
But go ahead. Well, I just think that it's one of those tasks that's forever. It's always in the now.
Yeah.
It just forever is, and I think that the lesson in Texas we never learned the lessons of the Northeast with all of their great transportation systems. But as you said, it's also behavior a component to it. And let's remember that LA had one of the best transportation systems in the world, the little red cars, and General Motors bought them out and killed them all. And now they're really, really interested when they come to their traffic exams. But it's just something I think you have to study. But I think that there are lessons for the past that we can learn. As Llewellyn said, we went underground. Now we're going over the sky. And in Austin, we're redoing I-35 and going under the ground again. So it's pretty wild.
Llewellyn?
I think that there's got to be both an intellectual breakthrough and a technological breakthrough to change transportation. Something huge. I'm not sure what it is, of course, but there have to be changes. I think it's probably going to be a hybrid of a limited number of air taxis, cheaper tunneling so we can go underground more. And one of my thoughts is that we shouldn't put automobiles underground or people underground, but we should put parcels underground. All of the roads are jammed up with trucks carrying parcels. Well, Elon Musk, who is rather a creative chap, he has a boring company, but he thinks about it as a people mover. If you simply made it a goods mover, I think you would clear the roads out and you would take a huge step forward.
I agree with that. Heather, thank you for being with us, and hopefully
very
we'll get
interesting,
to
Heather.
have you
Thank
back.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you all for having me and really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Johnny, take us away.
It's always now. Nothing ever goes away. Everything is here to stay. And it's always now. So brace your heart. Find yourself some sanity. It's really only you and me. And it's always now. That was an audition. That was an audition, Miss Bishop. You need to call me.
Thank you. Thank you.
What we call
I
it.
need a gig, Miss Bishop. I need a gig.
All right, we'll be talking. Y'all have a great rest of your day.
Bye
Okay.
bye now,
Take care.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.